Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, watching the stars drift past on the main screen. The massive human battleship cut through space like a knife through water. 2,000 crew members worked at their stations throughout the ship's 50 decks. This was humanity's newest and strongest warship, built with the best technology Earth had to offer. "Admiral, we're getting a message from Earth Command," said Lieutenant Commander Lisa Park from her science station. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel. "It's marked Priority 1 and encrypted." Morrison walked over to his command chair. The Liberty had been on patrol for 3 weeks now, checking the outer edges of human space. It was routine work, but Morrison knew that space was never truly safe. "Put it through to my ready room, Lisa. Ryan, you have the bridge." Captain Ryan Brooks nodded from the tactical station. He was Morrison's most trusted officer, a man who could read enemy ship movements like words on a page. "Aye, Admiral." In his private ready room, Morrison activated the secure communication system. The face of Admiral Helen Carter appeared on the screen. She looked worried, which was unusual for the tough leader of Earth's military forces. "Jake, we need the Liberty to investigate something," Carter said without greeting. "Long-range sensors have picked up strange energy readings from restricted zone Omega-7. The readings don't match anything in our databases." Morrison frowned. Omega-7 was marked on every star chart as Imperial territory. The Galactic Empire had made it clear that humans were not welcome in that sector. For 50 years, humanity had carefully avoided that area of space to keep peace with the Empire. "Admiral, that's Imperial space," Morrison said. "If we go there, I know the risks, Jake, but these energy readings are massive. Whatever's out there, it's big enough to power a small planet. We need to know what it is." Carter's image flickered as the signal traveled across light years. "Your orders are to observe only. Don't engage unless attacked. Get close enough to scan whatever's generating those readings, then get back to human space." "Understood," Morrison replied. The connection ended and he sat back in his chair. The Empire had always been mysterious about their restricted zones. Now Earth Command wanted to peek behind the curtain. Morrison returned to the bridge and called his senior officers together. Lisa Park arrived first, her science equipment already beeping with new data. Dr. Amanda Cole, the ship's expert on alien life, came next. She had spent years studying the few Imperial records available to humans. "We're changing course for restricted zone Omega-7, Morrison announced. "Earth Command has detected unusual energy signatures there." "Lisa, what can you tell me about these readings?" Park pulled up a holographic display showing waves of energy data. "The readings are unlike anything I've seen, Admiral. The energy output suggests some kind of massive communication array or power generation system, but the patterns are strange, almost like they're trying to hide something." Dr. Cole studied the data with interest. "The Empire has always been secretive about their restricted zones. In all our diplomatic contacts, they've never explained what's in those areas. They just say it's for Imperial security." Captain Brooks joined the group, his face serious. "Admiral, if we enter Imperial space without permission, they might consider it an act of war. The Empire has ships 3 times the size of ours." Morrison looked at his officers. They were right to be concerned. Humanity had only been part of the galactic community for 50 years. The Empire was ancient and powerful, with technology that seemed almost magical to human scientists. "We have our orders," Morrison said finally, "but we'll be careful. Set course for the edge of Omega-7. Best speed." The Liberty changed direction, its powerful engines pushing the ship toward unknown danger. As they traveled, Lisa Park worked to understand the strange energy readings. The closer they got, the stronger the signals became. 3 days later, the Liberty reached the edge of the restricted zone. Morrison stood on the bridge, watching space ahead of them. It looked empty, just stars and darkness. "Admiral, I'm picking up the source of the energy readings," Park reported. "It's a massive artificial structure about 10 light minutes ahead. The energy output is incredible." Dr. Cole looked up from her station. "Admiral, I'm also detecting ship movements. Multiple contacts heading our way." Morrison felt his heart rate increase. "How many ships, Amanda?" "At least 20, sir. They're still far away, but they're moving fast." Captain Brooks turned from his weapons console. "Admiral, our long-range sensors show Imperial fleet movements throughout this sector. It looks like they're sending everything they have toward our position." Morrison realized they had stumbled into something much bigger than anyone had expected. Whatever was generating those energy readings, The Empire was willing to send their entire local fleet to protect it. Lisa, how long until you can get detailed scans of that structure? Morrison asked. If we get closer, maybe 30 minutes for a full scan. But those ships will reach us before then. Morrison made a decision that would change everything. Take us in. Maximum speed.
We need to see what they're hiding. The Liberty surged forward, diving deeper into restricted space.
Behind them, Imperial ships changed course to intercept. The race was on. As they got closer to the mysterious structure, Park's instruments went wild. Admiral, this is incredible. The structure is generating artificial hyperspace tunnels. It's like a communication system that can reach across the entire galaxy instantly. Dr. Cole gasped as she saw the readings. Jake, this could explain how the Empire controls so much space. If they can communicate instantly across thousands of light years, they can coordinate their fleets better than anyone thought possible. Morrison finished. He understood now why this area was restricted. The Empire's greatest strategic advantage was hidden here. Admiral, we're being hailed, Brooks reported. It's an Imperial ship. On the main screen, an alien face appeared. The Imperial officer looked like a cross between a lizard and a bird, with golden eyes that seemed to burn with anger. Human vessel, you have entered restricted Imperial space. You will stop your engines and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with deadly force. Morrison stepped forward. This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Earth Federation. We are on a peaceful mission and mean no harm to the Empire. The Imperial officer's crest flared with rage. You lie, human. Your presence here proves you have stolen Imperial secrets. Surrender now or face destruction. The communication ended, and Morrison turned to his crew. They had found something the Empire would kill to protect. Now they had to decide whether to run or fight. Admiral, Brooks said quietly. 3 Imperial destroyers just dropped out of hyperspace. They're powering weapons. Morrison looked at the stars ahead where humanity's greatest discovery waited. Behind them, the Empire's ships closed in like hunters stalking prey. The Liberty was about to face its greatest test. The 3 Imperial destroyers moved toward the Liberty like sharks in dark water. Each ship was twice the size of a human cruiser, their hulls gleaming with energy shields. Admiral Morrison watched them approach on the main screen, knowing that the next few minutes would decide the fate of his crew. Captain Brooks, what's our tactical situation? Morrison asked, his voice calm despite the danger. Ryan Brooks studied his weapons display. The Imperial ships are using plasma cannon arrays, Admiral. Our intelligence files say those weapons can punch through most known armor types. But there's something strange about their energy signatures. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Park looked up from her science station. Admiral, I'm analyzing their weapon systems. The plasma technology is similar to our experimental designs, but it's less focused. It's like they took an old human design and built bigger versions. Dr. Amanda Cole frowned as she reviewed the data. That doesn't make sense. The Empire has had space travel for thousands of years. How could their weapons be based on human designs? Morrison filed that question away for later. Right now, he had to focus on keeping his ship and crew alive. Brooks, status of our defensive systems? All shield generators online, Admiral. Our adaptive shielding should handle most energy weapons. The railgun batteries are charged and ready. The Imperial destroyers spread out in a classic attack formation. Morrison had studied their tactics during his years at the Naval Academy. The Empire relied on overwhelming firepower and numerical superiority. They expected enemies to surrender when faced with impossible odds. Incoming transmission, reported Communications Officer Kyle Martinez. The main screen flickered, showing an Imperial captain with dark blue skin and silver eyes. Unlike the previous officer, this one seemed more controlled but equally dangerous. I am Captain Veltaran of the Imperial Navy. You have 30 seconds to lower your shields and surrender your vessel. This is your final warning, Morrison stepped forward. Captain, we are here on a peaceful mission. We have no desire for conflict with the Empire. Veltaran's expression didn't change. Your presence in this sector proves you have violated Imperial law. You will submit to inspection and interrogation. Refuse, and we will take your ship by force. The transmission ended. Morrison looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These men and women had served with him for 3 years. They trusted him to make the right decision. Admiral, Dr. Cole said quietly, if we surrender, they'll take the ship. Earth will never know what we found here. Brooks nodded agreement. The crew is ready, sir. Whatever you decide. Morrison thought about the massive communication array they had discovered. If the Empire was willing to attack a human ship to protect it, Then it must be incredibly important. Earth Command needed to know about this discovery. "All hands, this is the Admiral," Morrison announced over the ship's communication system. "We are about to engage 3 Imperial destroyers. Remember your training, trust your equipment, and watch out for each other. This is what we trained for." The Liberty's crew moved to battle stations throughout the ship. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Amy Torres pushed the reactors to maximum power. Marines led by Colonel Steve Carter prepared for possible boarding actions. Medical teams under Dr. Sarah Kim set up emergency treatment centers. "Imperial ships are powering weapons," Brooks reported. "Plasma cannons charging." Morrison settled into his command chair. "Raise shields. Weapons free. Target the lead destroyer." The first Imperial ship fired, sending streams of bright plasma toward the Liberty. The human battleship's adaptive shields flared as they absorbed the impact. Morrison felt the ship shake, but the shields held. "Minimal damage," Brooks reported with surprise. "Our shields are deflecting most of their plasma bursts." "Return fire," Morrison ordered. The Liberty's railgun batteries opened fire, sending solid metal projectiles at incredible speed toward the Imperial ships. The kinetic rounds struck the lead destroyer's energy shields and punched straight through like they weren't there. Explosions bloomed along the Imperial ship's hull as railgun rounds tore through armor plating. Secondary explosions rippled across the destroyer as systems failed and power conduits ruptured. "Direct hit," Brooks said, amazement in his voice. "Their shields can't stop our kinetic weapons." The second Imperial destroyer moved to attack the Liberty's flank, but Morrison was ready. "Hard starboard. Bring us around to face them." Pilot Jenny Walsh spun the massive battleship like a fighter craft. The Liberty's advanced maneuvering systems allowed it to move in ways that surprised the Imperial captains. They had expected a slow, clumsy human ship. Instead, they faced something that moved like a predator. "Fire as we turn," Morrison commanded. More railgun rounds slammed into the second destroyer. The Imperial ship tried to retreat, but the Liberty's weapons were too accurate. Within minutes, the destroyer broke apart in a brilliant explosion. Captain Velteran's ship fired everything it had at the Liberty. Plasma beams, missile pods, and energy torpedoes filled space between the two ships. The Liberty's shields glowed white-hot as they absorbed the barrage. "Shields at 60%, Brooks reported. "But we're still in the fight." Dr. Cole watched her instruments in fascination. "Admiral, their weapons are doing less damage than our models predicted. It's like they're not designed to fight ships with our type of shielding." Morrison realized something important. The Empire had never fought humans before. Their weapons and tactics were designed for enemies they knew how to defeat. But human technology had developed differently, following paths the Empire didn't understand. "Target their weapon systems," Morrison ordered. "Let's end this." The Liberty's forward railgun battery fired in sequence. Each round was guided by advanced targeting computers that could track enemy ships across thousands of kilometers. The round struck Velteran's destroyer with surgical precision, destroying weapons ports and shield generators. The Imperial ship began to drift, its main engines dark and its weapons silent. Morrison could have destroyed it completely, but he chose mercy instead. "This is Admiral Morrison," he broadcast to the crippled ship. "Your weapons are disabled. Withdraw from this area and tend to your wounded." There was no response from the Imperial ship, but Morrison saw escape pods launching from its hull. The crew was abandoning the vessel. Brooks turned from his tactical display. "Admiral, that was incredible. We just defeated 3 Imperial destroyers without taking serious damage." Lisa Park was studying her sensor readings with excitement. "The wreckage is giving us new data about Imperial technology. They're not as advanced as we thought." Dr. Cole nodded agreement. "Their technology is powerful, but it's also old. They've been using the same basic designs for centuries. We've been innovating and improving while they've stood still." Morrison felt a chill despite their victory. If a single human ship could defeat 3 Imperial destroyers so easily, what did that mean for the balance of power in the galaxy? "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission," Martinez reported. "It's from deep space, very powerful signal." A new face appeared on the screen, this one wearing the elaborate uniform of an Imperial fleet commander. The alien's expression was one of shock and fear. "Human vessel, I am Fleet Commander Zethkalar. You have committed acts of war against the Empire. A battle fleet is moving to intercept you. Surrender now, or face complete destruction." Morrison looked at his crew. They had won their first battle, but the war was just beginning. The massive Imperial research facility hung in space like a mechanical planet. Admiral Jake Morrison studied it through the Liberty's main screen, trying to understand what he was seeing. The structure was easily 50 kilometers across, covered with towers, docking bays, and strange geometric patterns that hurt to look at. "My God," whispered Dr. Amanda Cole. "It's enormous. What could they possibly be doing in there?" Lieutenant Commander Lisa Park worked frantically at her science station. "Admiral, I'm detecting thousands of life signs inside that facility. Multiple species, including..." She paused, checking her readings again. "Including humans." Morrison felt ice in his stomach. "Humans, how many?" "At least 50, sir. Maybe more. The signals are coming from what looks like a medical or research section." Captain Ryan Brooks looked up from his tactical display. "Admiral, we've got bigger problems. Long-range sensors show 12 Imperial battleships heading our way." "ETA 20 minutes. Morrison made a quick decision. "We're going aboard that facility. Brooks, take a security team and prepare the docking shuttle. Amanda, you're with me. We need to find those humans." Dr. Cole gathered her medical equipment while Brooks assembled a team of Marines. Colonel Steve Carter volunteered to lead the boarding party, along with Sergeant Mike Johnson and 6 other experienced fighters. The shuttle launched from the Liberty's main bay, carrying the rescue team toward the mysterious facility. As they got closer, Morrison could see that the structure was even larger than it had appeared. Sections of it seemed to be moving, rotating slowly like the parts of some vast machine. "There," Lisa Park's voice came through the communication system. "Docking Bay 7 appears to be inactive. No energy signatures, no defensive systems." The shuttle slipped into the dark bay without triggering any alarms. The boarding party moved out carefully, weapons ready. The corridors inside the facility were huge, designed for creatures much larger than humans. Strange symbols covered the walls, glowing with soft blue light. "Stay together," Morrison ordered. "Amanda, which way to those life signs?" Dr. Cole checked her scanner. "Down 2 levels, then toward the center of the facility. The readings are getting stronger." They found the first laboratory 20 minutes later. Through a transparent wall, Morrison saw something that made him sick to his stomach. Dozens of creatures from different worlds lay in medical beds, connected to machines by cables and tubes. Scientists in white coats moved between the beds, taking samples and making notes. "What are they doing to them?" Colonel Carter asked, his voice tight with anger. Dr. Cole studied the scene with professional interest despite her horror. "It looks like they're studying different species, learning how their bodies work. But this is far beyond normal medical research." They moved deeper into the facility, finding more laboratories. Each one contained representatives from different worlds, all being studied and tested by Imperial scientists. Morrison began to understand the scope of what they had discovered. "They're cataloging every species in the galaxy," he realized, "learning their strengths, their weaknesses, their biology." They found the human section in the deepest part of the research complex. Behind reinforced walls, Morrison saw something that filled him with rage. Dozens of humans floated in cylindrical tanks filled with liquid. Cables connected them to monitoring equipment that recorded every detail of their biology. "Can we get them out?" Morrison asked Dr. Cole. She studied the equipment with expert eyes. "Yes, but we need to be careful. They've been in suspended animation for months, maybe years. We need to wake them gradually." Colonel Carter and his Marines set up defensive positions while Dr. Cole worked to free the humans. The first tank opened with a hiss of escaping gas, and a woman fell forward into Morrison's arms. "Easy," Morrison said gently. "You're safe now." The woman looked up at him with confused eyes. Where am I?" "The ship." "We were exploring..." Dr. Cole checked the woman's identity tag. "Captain Beth Williams, exploration vessel New Horizon." "She's been missing for 3 years." More tanks opened, revealing explorers, diplomats, and scientists who had vanished during peaceful missions. Each one had been captured and brought here to be studied like laboratory animals. "Admiral," came Lisa Park's voice through the communicator, "you need to see this. I've accessed the facility's computer system." Morrison left Dr. Cole to care for the rescued humans and found a data terminal. Park's image appeared on the screen, her face pale with shock. "What did you find, Lisa?" "The Imperial records, sir. This facility has been operating for over 1,000 years. They've been capturing members of every species they encounter, studying them, learning their secrets." Morrison felt sick as he understood. "They're not just studying us. They're stealing from us. It's worse than that, Admiral. The records show they use this information to enhance their own people. Imperial soldiers have been modified with traits stolen from dozens of species." strength from warrior races, intelligence from scholarly species, healing abilities from others. Dr. Cole appeared beside Morrison, having heard the conversation. That explains why Imperial technology seemed familiar. They didn't invent it. They stole it from the species they conquered. Park's image nodded grimly. And there's more, sir. The humans they've captured have been their greatest challenge. Our biology is too complex, too adaptable. They can't figure out how to replicate our traits. Morrison began to understand why the Empire had kept humanity isolated. They weren't protecting the galaxy from humans. They were protecting themselves from a species they couldn't control or copy. "Admiral," Colonel Carter called out. "We've got company." Imperial guards had found them. Dozens of soldiers in powered armor moved through the corridors, surrounding the human rescue team. But these weren't ordinary Imperial troops. These soldiers moved with inhuman speed and strength, enhanced with abilities stolen from conquered worlds. "Fall back to the shuttle," Morrison ordered. "Get the rescued humans to safety." The running battle through the facility's corridors was unlike anything Morrison had experienced. The Imperial guards were faster and stronger than normal soldiers, but they fought with rigid tactics. The human Marines adapted quickly, using the facility's own structure against their enemies. Sergeant Johnson discovered that the enhanced guards couldn't see well in darkness. He shut off the corridor lights, giving the humans a tactical advantage. Private Lisa Torres found that the guards' enhanced strength made them clumsy in tight spaces. They reached the shuttle bay as Imperial reinforcements arrived. Morrison made a decision that would save lives but doom the facility. "Lisa," he called through the communicator, "can you overload the facility's power core?" "Yes, sir, but it will destroy everything. All the research, all the evidence." Morrison looked at the rescued humans being loaded onto the shuttle. Captain Williams was helping other survivors, showing the strength that had made her a respected explorer. "Do it," Morrison ordered. "This place is an abomination. It needs to be destroyed." The shuttle launched just as Lisa Park triggered the overload. Behind them, the massive research facility began to tear itself apart. Explosions rippled across its surface as power conduits overloaded, and reactor cores went critical. As they flew back to the Liberty, Morrison received an update from Captain Brooks. The Imperial battle fleet had arrived, 12 massive ships against one human battleship. The odds were impossible. But as Morrison watched the research facility destroy itself in a brilliant explosion, he realized something important. The Empire's greatest strength was also its weakness. They had spent so long stealing from others that they had forgotten how to innovate themselves. The rescued humans sat quietly in the shuttle, processing what had happened to them. Captain Williams looked at Morrison with grateful eyes. "Admiral, they were afraid of us," she said quietly. "The Imperial scientists." They couldn't understand how humans could be so different from each other, so adaptable. It scared them. Morrison nodded, understanding finally why humanity had been kept isolated. The Empire didn't see humans as primitive allies. They saw them as a threat that couldn't be controlled or copied. Now that threat was about to face the Imperial Navy's best ships. The real test was just beginning. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the Liberty's bridge, watching 12 Imperial battleships arrange themselves in attack formation. Each enemy vessel was 3 times the size of his ship, bristling with weapons that could level cities. Behind him, the research facility's explosion still lit up space like a dying star. "Admiral, incoming transmission," reported Communications Officer Kyle Martinez. The main screen filled with the image of an Imperial officer unlike any Morrison had seen before. This one was massive, with scales that seemed to be made of metal and eyes that burned like stars. Gold markings covered his uniform, marking him as one of the Empire's highest-ranking commanders. "I am Grand Admiral Thexmoran," the creature said, his voice like grinding stone. "You have destroyed Imperial property and murdered Imperial citizens. Your species has revealed its true nature as destroyers and thieves." Morrison stepped forward. "Grand Admiral, we freed prisoners who were being tortured in that facility. We acted to save innocent lives." Thexmoran's laugh was a sound like breaking glass. "Innocent? Your species is a plague that must be contained. Today we end the human threat forever." The transmission ended and Morrison turned to his crew. Captain Ryan Brooks was already studying tactical displays. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Park worked to boost the ship's sensors. Dr. Amanda Cole helped the rescued humans settle into emergency quarters. "Options?" Morrison asked his tactical officer. Brooks shook his head. 12-to-1 odds, Admiral. Each of their ships has more firepower than we do. In a straight fight, we'll last maybe 10 minutes. Morrison looked at the star chart, noting the dense asteroid field that surrounded the destroyed facility. During the Empire's thousands of years of operation, the facility had attracted space debris like a magnet. Broken ships, construction materials, and natural asteroids created a maze of obstacles. We're not fighting a straight fight, Morrison decided. Jenny, take us into the asteroid field. Maximum speed. Pilot Jenny Walsh's hands flew over her controls. Aye, sir. Into the rocks we go. The Liberty dove into the asteroid field like a fish diving deep water. Behind them, the Imperial battleships followed, but their massive size made them clumsy among the floating rocks. Morrison had gambled that human ship design would give them an advantage, and he was right. First Imperial ship is falling behind, Brooks reported. They can't navigate the tight spaces. Good. Target their lead ship with railgun batteries. Hit and run tactics. The Liberty burst from behind a massive asteroid, firing as it moved. Kinetic rounds slammed into the Imperial flagship's shields, causing them to flicker and spark. Before the enemy could return fire, Walsh had spun the ship behind another asteroid. Grand Admiral Thexmoran's voice came over the communication system, filled with rage. Cowards. Face us in open battle. Morrison smiled grimly. Amy, can you give us more power to engines? Chief Engineer Amy Torres' voice came from the engine room. I can push the reactors to 120%, Admiral, but I can't guarantee how long they'll hold. Do it. The Liberty shot through the asteroid field like a comet, using the floating rocks as cover and weapons. Walsh flew the ship between asteroids that were only meters apart, making turns that should have been impossible for something so large. How is she doing that? Dr. Cole asked, watching the pilot work. Brooks answered without taking his eyes off his displays. Jenny's not just flying the ship. She's dancing with it. The Liberty systems were designed to work with the pilot, not just obey orders. The Imperial ships tried to follow, but their rigid flight patterns made them predictable. Morrison used this against them, leading them into collisions with asteroids and each other. 2 Imperial battleships crashed into each other trying to corner the Liberty, their hulls grinding together in a shower of sparks. Admiral, Lisa Park called out, I'm detecting something unusual about the larger asteroids. They're not natural. Morrison looked at the sensor data. Many of the asteroids showed signs of artificial construction, as if they had once been ships or stations. Debris from the facility's history, Dr. Cole realized. Thousands of years of operation, thousands of ships that never left. Morrison saw an opportunity. Lisa, can you identify any of those wrecks that might still have power systems? Park's fingers moved across her console. Yes, sir. Several show active power cores, probably automated systems that have been running for centuries. Can you overload them? Park smiled as she understood Morrison's plan. Yes, sir. Give me 2 minutes. The Liberty continued its deadly dance through the asteroid field while Park worked. Imperial ships fired blindly into the rocks, trying to hit the elusive human battleship. Their massive plasma cannons turned asteroids into glowing dust. But the Liberty stayed ahead of destruction. Ready. Admiral, Park announced. Morrison waited until 3 Imperial battleships were clustered near a group of large asteroids. Now, the ancient power cores exploded in sequence, creating a chain reaction that tore through space. The Imperial ships caught in the blasts lost shields and took massive damage. One battleship broke apart completely, its hull cracked like an egg. That's 4 down, Brooks reported with satisfaction. But the remaining Imperial ships had learned. They stopped chasing the Liberty directly and began to surround the asteroid field instead. Grand Admiral Thexmoran was trying to trap Morrison by cutting off escape routes. Admiral, Jenny Walsh called out, they're boxing us in. We need another way out. Morrison studied the tactical display, looking for options. The Imperial ships were too numerous and too well positioned. But then he noticed something unusual about the sensor readings from the destroyed research facility. Lisa, what's that energy signature near the facility's remains? Park checked her instruments. It looks like the facility's main power core didn't completely destroy itself. It's created some kind of space distortion, almost like a miniature black hole. Dr. Cole looked up from her console. Admiral, that distortion is affecting local spacetime. It could be dangerous to approach. Morrison saw opportunity in the danger. How dangerous? Ships that get too close could be torn apart by gravitational forces. But the distortion is also creating massive energy discharges that could interfere with ship systems. Morrison made a decision that seemed like madness. Jenny, take us toward that distortion. Maximum speed, sir? Walsh asked, not sure she had heard correctly. You heard me. We're going to use that thing as a weapon. The Liberty raced toward the space-time distortion, with 8 Imperial battleships in pursuit. As they got closer, the ship began to shake from gravitational forces. Lights flickered on the bridge as energy discharges interfered with systems. Admiral, this is insane, Brooks said, but he was smiling as he said it. Morrison watched the Imperial ships following them. The massive vessels were struggling with the gravitational effects, their heavy hulls making them vulnerable to the distortion's pull. Now, Morrison ordered. Walsh pulled the Liberty into a sharp turn, using the distortion's gravity to slingshot around it. The maneuver put tremendous stress on the ship's structure, but it also flung them clear of the danger zone. The Imperial ships weren't so lucky. 4 of them were caught in the distortion's pull, their hulls groaning as gravitational forces tore at them. 2 ships managed to escape, but the others were pulled into the distortion and crushed. 6 Imperial ships remaining, Brooks reported, but Morrison wasn't done. The slingshot maneuver had positioned the Liberty perfectly for one final attack. The remaining Imperial ships were scattered and damaged, trying to regroup after the disaster. All weapons, fire at will, Morrison commanded. The Liberty's railgun batteries opened fire, sending kinetic rounds at the surviving Imperial ships. Without the protection of the asteroid field, the enemy vessels were sitting targets. One by one, they fell to the human ship's accurate gunnery. Grand Admiral Thexmoran's flagship was the last to fall. The massive ship tried to run, but its damaged engines couldn't outrace the Liberty's weapons. Morrison's final salvo punched through the flagship's hull, causing explosions that lit up the darkness. When the battle was over, the Liberty floated alone among the wreckage of 12 Imperial battleships. Morrison's crew stared in amazement at what they had accomplished. Admiral, Brooks said quietly, we just destroyed an entire Imperial battle fleet, with 1 ship. Morrison nodded, but he felt no joy in the victory. This battle would change everything between humanity and the Empire. There would be no going back to the old ways. Set course for Earth, Morrison ordered. Best speed. We need to warn them what's coming. The blue marble of Earth grew larger on the Liberty's main screen as Admiral Jake Morrison brought his battered ship home. 3 weeks had passed since the battle in Imperial space. 3 weeks of running silent through hyperspace while the crew processed what they had discovered. Earth Control. This is the UES Liberty requesting immediate priority docking, Communications Officer Kyle Martinez transmitted. We have Admiral Morrison aboard with critical intelligence. The response was immediate. Liberty, you are cleared for urgent docking at Military Station Alpha. President Davis and the Colonial Council are waiting. Morrison looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They had started this mission as explorers and returned as warriors. The rescued humans from the Imperial facility had told their stories during the journey home, each tale more horrifying than the last. Dr. Amanda Cole approached Morrison as the ship docked. Admiral Captain Williams and the other survivors are ready to testify. Their testimonies will change everything humanity thinks about the Empire. Morrison nodded. Captain Beth Williams had been particularly helpful, providing details about Imperial research methods and the fear she had seen in her captors' eyes when they studied human adaptability. 2 hours later, Morrison stood before the emergency session of the Human Colonial Council. President Helen Davis sat at the head of a curved table, surrounded by representatives from Earth's colonies and military leaders. The rescued Imperial prisoners sat in a special section, their presence a stark reminder of what humanity faced. Admiral Morrison, President Davis began, your report claims that the Galactic Empire has been conducting illegal experiments on humans for decades. That's a serious accusation. Morrison activated the holographic display system. Images from the Imperial Research Facility filled the air above the table. Gasps echoed through the chamber as the council members saw the laboratories, the prison tanks, the evidence of systematic torture. Madam President, what we found was worse than anything we imagined, Morrison said. The Empire hasn't been treating us as junior partners in galactic civilization. They've been studying us like lab animals, trying to understand and copy our abilities. Dr. Cole stepped forward with her analysis. The rescued humans show evidence of extensive biological testing. Brain scans, genetic sampling, psychological experiments. The Empire has been trying to understand what makes humans adaptable and innovative. Captain Williams rose from her seat, her voice strong despite what she had endured. They were afraid of us. The Imperial scientists would argue among themselves about human unpredictability. They couldn't understand how we could be so different from each other while still working together. General Robert Stone, Earth's military commander, studied the tactical data from the battle. Admiral, you destroyed 12 Imperial battleships with one human vessel. How is that possible? Morrison displayed the battle recordings. Their technology is old, sir. Powerful but unchanging. They've relied on stolen innovations from conquered species for so long that they've forgotten how to adapt to new threats. The council chamber erupted in discussions as representatives processed the implications. Humanity wasn't the primitive species they had believed themselves to be. They were potentially the most dangerous threat the Empire had ever faced. President Davis called for order. The question before us is simple. Do we submit to Imperial authority, or do we prepare for war? The debate lasted for hours. Some representatives argued for negotiation and diplomacy. Others demanded immediate military preparation. But Morrison knew the choice had already been made when he destroyed the Imperial research facility. Meanwhile, across Imperial space, the news of humanity's actions spread like wildfire. On the mining world of Kepler-7, the enslaved Drakari workers whispered about a human ship that had defeated an entire Imperial fleet. On the agricultural planet of Haven's Rest, the subjugated Terrian farmers shared stories of humans who fought back against oppression. The Empire's communication network, damaged by the facility's destruction, couldn't suppress the rumors fast enough. For the first time in centuries, conquered species began to hope that freedom might be possible. On the Imperial capital world of Supremus Prime, Emergency Chancellor Vex Theran met with the High Military Council. The loss of Grand Admiral Thex Moran and his fleet had shocked the Empire's leadership to its core. The human threat is greater than we calculated, Vex Theran announced to the assembled commanders. Our intelligence was completely wrong about their capabilities. Fleet Commander Zeth Kalar, promoted after the disaster, presented his analysis. Chancellor, the humans didn't just defeat our ships. They used tactics we've never encountered, adapted to our weapons in real time, and turned our own technology against us. The discussion in the Imperial Council was heated. Some demanded immediate retaliation against Earth, others argued for negotiation, but the Chancellor made the decision that would seal the Empire's fate. Prepare the Grand Fleet, Vex Theran ordered. Every available ship, every enhanced soldier, every weapon in our arsenal. Humanity will be destroyed before they can spread their rebellion to other species. Back on Earth, the Colonial Council reached its decision. President Davis announced the vote to a waiting galaxy through every communication channel humanity possessed. Citizens of Earth and her colonies, Davis began. We have learned that our peaceful coexistence with the Galactic Empire has been built on lies. The Empire has been systematically abusing and experimenting on humans and other species for centuries. The President's words were broadcast not just to human worlds, but to every planet with communication equipment. Alien species across the galaxy heard a human leader speaking words they had never dared to hope for. Today, humanity withdraws from all Imperial treaties and agreements. We will no longer tolerate the abuse of any sentient species. To those who have suffered under Imperial rule, know that you are not alone. Freedom is possible. The reaction was immediate and explosive. On dozens of worlds, species that had been oppressed for generations began to rise in rebellion. The Terrian farmers on Haven's Rest seized Imperial supply depots. The Drakari miners on Kepler-7 took control of their mining stations. Across the galaxy, the Empire's grip on power began to slip. Admiral Morrison received promotion to Fleet Admiral and command of Earth's rapidly expanding military. The orbital shipyards around Earth worked at full capacity, building new ships based on lessons learned from the Liberty's victory. But more importantly, representatives from 12 different species arrived on Earth, seeking alliance against the Empire. Dr. Cole, now director of xenological research, worked with alien scientists to share technology and knowledge freely. For the first time in galactic history, species were cooperating as equals rather than rulers and subjects. It's remarkable, Dr. Cole told Morrison as they watched alien ships dock at human space stations. Each species has unique technologies and perspectives. Together, we're advancing faster than any single species could alone. The Tarian brought agricultural techniques that could feed billions. The Drakari shared mining technologies that made resource gathering incredibly efficient. The crystalline Vortani contributed energy storage systems that revolutionized power generation. Fleet Admiral Morrison stood in his new command center on Luna Base, watching the construction of humanity's first battle fleet, designed specifically to fight the Empire. But the ships being built weren't just human vessels. They incorporated technology from all the allied species, creating something new and powerful. Captain Jenny Walsh, promoted to command her own ship, visited Morrison before departing on a mission to contact more potential allies. Admiral, the Empire is mobilizing everything they have. Our scouts report massive fleet movements throughout Imperial space. Morrison nodded. He had expected this response. How long until they reach Earth? 6 months, maybe less. They're bringing everything they have. Morrison looked out at the ships under construction. Human vessels worked alongside alien craft, their crews learning to cooperate despite their differences. It was what the Empire had always feared, species working together as equals. Let them come, Jenny, we'll be ready. In the depths of space, the Empire's grand fleet gathered at the fortress world of Terminus Station. Over 3,000 ships of every type and size prepared for what Imperial commanders called the final campaign. Enhanced soldiers filled transport vessels while weapons designed to destroy planets charged their power cores, but the Empire was no longer fighting just humanity. They faced an alliance of free species who had learned to work together, share knowledge, and fight for each other's freedom. The galaxy was about to witness a conflict that would determine whether freedom or oppression would shape the future of civilization. As Morrison watched, Earth's sun set through the observation deck of Luna Base. He thought about the journey that had brought them here. A routine patrol mission had become the catalyst for galactic revolution. Humanity had discovered they weren't alone in wanting freedom, and that discovery would change everything. The war for galactic freedom was about to begin, and Morrison knew that whatever happened, the galaxy would never be the same again.